What's up, everybody? It's Coach Dave, and I lift.
And Laura and I lift, and welcome to the She Lifts.
He lifts podcast. And tonight we are back on our 5 on 5. That's right. We posed a question to each other, and we each have 5 answers, and we're going to discuss them. Now, tonight's question: What are 5 mistakes that everyone, not just beginners kind of especially, because let's face it, when we're beginners, we all make mistakes. But what everyone makes along their fitness journey when it comes to nutrition. And I think we're going to dispel a couple myths, talk about some things. So, I'm going to kick things off with my number 5 thing that people do wrong, and that is skip meals. Okay. So, I actually watched a video recently about skipping meals. I have been for years. I have gone on the premise that your metabolism is fire. And the more you feed the fire, the more it will burn. If you starve yourself and you put a large log on that fire, it sort of slows that fire down. Now, there are research, there is research out there that spreading your calories up over multiple meals doesn't burn any more calories. And that's very well may be, but the bigger part of that statement that I just said is the fact that if you starve yourself or skip meals or allow yourself to get to that starving point, you end up either overeating because you eat so fast that you don't allow yourself to get full, or your tendency is to grab the first thing that you can get your hands on. And let's face it, in today's day and age, 9 times out of 10, the closest thing to us is probably not the most healthy. Okay? Fast food is exactly that. It is food that is fast. And when we skip meals, when we allow our fire to slow down, we tend to reach for that fast food. And that food, guys, and I've talked about this before, I like fast food. I'm not going to lie, but it is very calorie laden in small amounts. So we are taking large amounts of calories, throwing them on a slowed down fire. We end up sluggish. We end up slowing ourselves down, and really we end up getting ourselves off track. The more we can spread our calories out. Now, don't take it to the extreme. If you're on a 1,500 calorie a day meal plan, don't try to break that up into 15 meals at 150 calories a day, or I'm sorry, what is it? 10 calories or 100 calories per meal. That is really setting yourself up for failure. But if you're on a 1,500 calorie a day meal plan, and you're going to spread that up over, let's say, 4 meals, that's still a decent amount of calories per meal. And you can stretch that out into a lot of food by adding vegetables, adding lower calorie options to certain things, and stretch that out over a lot of food and allow yourself to never get to that point where you're starving. You may be a little hungry, but never starving where you're going to be just eating anything that's not nailed down.
Exactly. Another thing with skipping meals too is if you guys know, I've talked about this a lot of times. If you're skipping meals, you're not hitting your protein goal, and you know how I feel about the protein goal. We gotta hit it. If you are skipping meals and exercising, you're not getting enough nutrition. You're not fueling your body. So what you're gonna actually do is your body's gonna start to burn off muscle. That's the first thing it'll pare down. When we're not fueling our body and burning off muscle, we are ending up lower and lower and lower calorie. We're slowing our metabolism down even more because we're losing some of that muscle, and you're just going to be on a never-ending journey of lowering and lowering and lowering and lowering until you get to a place that's not going to be sustainable anymore, and you're going to completely go the opposite direction. So even that aspect of it too, you're fighting a never-ending battle when you're skipping meals.
Hmm.
My number 5, as I talked about in our nutrition episode, I am vegetarian, used to be vegan. My number 5 is just assuming that because something is plant-based or gluten-free or any of those trigger words like that, a lot of times people will automatically assume that that's healthy. Like if I, like off the top of my head, I made cookies for the daycare at the gym when my son went to the daycare, and they were vegan because I make vegan cookies. And everybody was like, "Oh my God, I didn't know that like these cookies were healthy," or like, "Oh, they're vegan, so like they're healthy." No, I just didn't put butter and eggs in them. It still has like a lot of sugar and a lot of brown sugar and a ton of carbs. So I eat plant-based meat alternatives just because that is my lifestyle. Go listen to, I'll have the nutrition episode linked in the show notes. So if you want a little bit more background on like a plant-based lifestyle or anything, and it is a lifestyle, it's not a diet. I eat plant-based meat because that's how I need to get my protein. But if you are totally okay with eating meat, and you don't have like a moral dilemma with that, eat meat because there's less. Plant-based meat has a ton of additives. If you look at the ingredients for plant-based meat, there's like a lot of stuff in there that I'm not even really sure what it is. There's dye, like in the some burgers they use like dye to make them have color to them so they bleed like real meat. So they're adding that in. If you're eating meat, you're just eating meat. I mean, yeah, there's a whole nother thing of like how was this meat like raised and what diet did that eat or whatever. But simple fact is that the meat doesn't have a whole bunch of additives in there. I talked with my hands so much that I flew my headphone right out of my ear. So yeah, my number five, that was the chaotic number five, but my number five is just because something has a trigger word like plant-based, like they get you with the plant instead of just saying that it's vegan, they put that plant in there. Or gluten-free. If you don't have a gluten allergy, you don't need to be eating gluten-free food. If you're not sensitive to gluten, just eat the regular food. Same thing with meat. If you don't have a moral dilemma, just eat meat.
You know, it's funny that you say that. I have a friend who is vegetarian. I don't know if they remember, can't remember if they're vegetarian or vegan, but we were all over their house for a party one time, and I was eating like they were like pigs in a blanket, not even not thinking, and they're like, you realize those are vegetarian or vegan or whatever it was, and I was like, oh, I was like, so they're healthier? They're like, no, and I actually happened to go to the grocery store, just like Laura said. Those words really do uh, sort of trigger that, oh, I'm eating a healthier lifestyle. It's not necessarily healthy. But again, at least I used to think until the other day when we were planning these show notes, when I thought, I'm like, well, sugar is vegan. Apparently it's not, according to Laura. Um, but the other things like vegetarians can eat potato chips. They're not healthy. Things like that. Vegan mayonnaise is still mayonnaise. It's still full of saturated fat. Yes, it's not made with eggs, but it's still made with oil. So again, don't don't assume just because something has a word like that. Gluten free is another one. I think because gluten free um but again a lot of those things they make gluten free popsicles, they make gluten free cookies, they make gluten free white bread. So which leads me right into my next point. My number four is trap foods. That's right, trap foods. Trap foods are, to me, my definition of a trap food are things that are either marketed in a way, much like the plant-based meats or some of the things that say vegan on them, that are either marketed in a way that make you think they're healthy or might actually be healthy, but if your goal is to lose weight, they are very calorie laden. So again, we've talked about the examples with the vegan and the gluten free and stuff like that. But other things that fall into that category, that part of it, things like granola, which is usually laden with a lot of sugar, and what binds it in the clusters is usually sugar. Um, Fruit on the bottom yogurt, which is basically fruit pieces in yogurt with uh, basically what amounts to large amounts of syrup. Um, those types of things generally fall into even things like baked chips and you know even diet soda to some extent. Though those things tend to still have a lot of unhealthy qualities to them. Now, on the flip side of that, other things that are a little bit more healthy, the things that I sort of pick on a lot of times when I talk about this is are nuts and avocados. Even guacamole to some extent, because guacamole is basically just dressed up mashed up avocados. Those things are healthy. They contain a lot of healthy fat. Healthy fat is good for your skin. It's good for your brain health. It's good for your vision health. It's good for a lot of things. But again, fatty foods tend to have a lot of calories and not a lot of in a small serving size. So when we start adding avocados to our salad or nuts in our snack, or we're eating more calories. Yes, they are healthy calories, but if our goal is to lose weight, we want to keep our calories in check. So watch those foods that market themselves as healthy, and again, watch those healthy foods that are still very high in calories.
Yeah, that one is like a good and a bad because lately I've been having, and we talked about this in a episode that we're like planning on doing in the future. I've been having a lot of people or like somebody that my husband works with. My husband just asked me the other day, like my coworker is like trying to gain weight. What foods can he eat so that like he's gaining weight? Because they're commercial electricians and it's like hot AF outside, so they're like profusely sweating all day. So this poor guy can't gain any weight and we like made a list of foods that are like super calorie dense for him. So there is a good and a bad with that. But again, like Dave said, if your goal is to lose weight, just be mindful. If your goal is to build muscle, then good news, you can still eat healthy foods and you can eat more of them. Because I personally like avocado is probably one of my top foods. I am so bad with avocado. I will put like a whole
Mm,
entire avocado on stuff, like a big one too. And that's probably, I don't even want to know how many calories that is, but it's fine.
I actually ate a lot of avocados when I was getting ready for my competition and I was going through the no carb phase. They because I would put them like on my eggs, I would put them on my on like in dinner. I would cut a couple slices and put them up over chicken. Um, yeah, avocados
Yeah, thinking,
are really really good.
yeah, I literally just ate dinner and I put avocado on my dinner and I could eat some more avocados. All right. Which brings me, I'm getting distracted. My mouth is like watering. Which brings me to my next one. My number four mistake would be focusing too much on calories. We have talked about this in two separate episodes. Our most recent Q&A, Dave addressed it a little more than he did in the first episode, not our very first episode. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it'll be linked in the show notes. He talked about it pretty in depth in that first episode that we brought it up. Talked about it again in our Q&A, and I want to bring it up again because I feel like that is super important. Is that a lot of times all people care about? I think this kind of comes from like the MyFitnessPal craze of when that app like first came out, and you could set it like I want to lose weight, tell me what to eat, and it automatically set everybody to like 1,200 calories, and now everybody's really obsessed with calories. Um, you could eat 1,200 calories of absolutely non-nutritious foods at all, or you could eat 1,200 calories and hit your protein goal, and you're going to have very different physiques following those two separate diets. So I did want to bring it up again because I feel like it is super important. But if you want a little bit more in depth, I will have those two episodes linked below. I'm going to make you go listen to those ones instead of me talking about it again.
Yeah, and right, the focus on calories becomes, and you are right. When it comes to weight loss, we have a certain amount of calories that we call it our maintenance calories. That's the calories that we need to make it through the day. But the more we focus on it, first of all, and when I talked about this at the end of last episode, and I'm going to bring it up again because I really feel like I flew through it. There is really no 100% accurate way to track your calorie intake and your calorie output. Yes, the fitness trackers help. Yes, the nutrition labels help. But what we talked about, there's a 20% margin for error on a nutrition label. That means something you're eating could say 100 calories. It could have 80. It could have 120. That's 40 calorie swing. Your fitness trackers. I can wave my hands around like Laura just knocked her microphone out of her ear. As she's waving her hands around, that's registering as movement. She's not walking. She's not picking up steps, but that fitness tracker is gonna count that as movement. And yes, moving your arm does burn calories, but we're talking about minimal calories here, folks. Let's be real, not the calories that are going to get us into a deficit. So focusing on what we eat is more important than especially, and again, again, we bring this up every episode. Every episode we talk about it, and I'm going to tell you, we're bringing up, and if we do 100 more of these, which we plan on it, our goal is not necessarily to lose weight. It is not necessarily gain weight. It is to be sustainable, healthy, and live our life as long and as productive and as fruitful as we possibly can. The more we focus on calories and macros, especially when we're not really pushing our muscle gains or really trying to do something like get on stage for a bodybuilding show or get ready for some sort of athletic endeavor. When we focus on that in regular everyday life, it becomes so hard to stay on track, and it ends up driving you back to where you started. Boom. So my number three is my what I call mindless eating. What is mindless eating? Mindless eating is, imagine you're sitting at your desk and you've got a bowl of M&Ms or a bowl of nuts or a bowl of potato chips. You're not even necessarily hungry, but you reach for a handful of M&Ms and you sit there and you're doing your paperwork. And next thing you know, you've eaten that whole bowl of M&Ms. That's mindless eating. Eating popcorn in the movies. That's mindless eating. You're so engrossed in the movie that you're watching that you keep eating popcorn. Mindless eating is something that is very easy to avoid by not putting yourself in that position. When you are done eating, clear your plate. That is the first thing because we've all done it. We've all been at a party or a barbecue and sit there and we've picked whatever food that couldn't finish off of our plate. And next thing you know, we've cleaned our plate. It may have taken us an hour, but we've cleaned our plate and we've probably picked at whatever other things were there along the table. We've all had a bowl of something. I was telling Laura when we were planning this episode, I've told you all I used to sell cars before. I worked at a high-end store. I believe it was a BMW store for a little while. And one of the things that they did is every salesperson on the desk had a candy dish. And at night, the cleaning crew would go around and fill it with, sometimes it was M&M's, sometimes it was Hershey Kisses. But one day I was sitting there making sales calls, and next thing I looked at, I ate half a bowl of Hershey Kisses. I don't even really like Hershey's Kisses, but they were there. So I ate them. And again, those are the things that you can actively avoid. Those are things that you can put yourself in a position where you're not going to do that. Focus on that. When you catch yourself doing it, again, clear your plate. Don't put candy dishes out. Don't leave open bag of chips sitting on your lap while you're watching TV. Little things like that can go a long way when it comes to managing our weight, whether it's up or down.
Yeah. I think another thing, eating, another thing that's mindless eating, like Dave said, while you're watching a movie, sometimes when we're eating, we are like scrolling on social media, we're like watching YouTube or watching TV, like, so not just the movies, like if you're sitting down and your attention is on a screen and not on the food that you're like putting into your mouth, you're gonna overeat. Not only are you gonna overeat, you're probably going to eat a little bit faster, which isn't great for your digestion. You're probably not chewing as much as you should, but you got to chew your food so that you get your digestive enzymes ready to start breaking down your food. So just being intentional when you're eating, which brings me to my number three, which actually goes like perfectly hand in hand with this too. When you're doing your mindless eating, you're not focusing, and this tends to happen with more of like our treats. This you're not focused enough on the food that's in your mouth. You're worried about the next piece of food. So I am personally like really bad with this. I'm not even gonna sit here and like try to tell you that like I have all the tips because I'm so good at this. When I was in high school, I hope my mom listens to this because I know she listens to them sometimes. My parents had a candy dish, and I would go down like after I thought my parents were asleep, and it was like a glass candy dish, and my mom would have it full with Dove chocolate, and I was like tearing up some Dove chocolate, and she would like hear the like clink of the glass of me pulling off the dish, and she would be like, "What?" And I would be like, "What?" And she'd be like, "Are you eating chocolate?" And I'd be like, "No, I'm just having like two pieces, but meanwhile, I would be like filling them in my shirt and like taking them up to my room. I would have like at least 10 pieces of chocolate, which is like wildly excessive. And I would just be sitting there like popping them in my mouth, and not a single time did I sit and be like, wow, this chocolate is so good. I was still worried about the other nine that I brought up and had sitting on my lap. So just when you're eating those foods, don't be so worried about it. Like, oh, I gotta like taste the next one. I gotta taste the next one. You can taste the one that's in your mouth. So, and I'm not saying that like you're just gonna eat one and then you're gonna stop. Because I mean, I am getting a little better because I'm being a little more self-aware now. I have been better about like only having one piece of chocolate because I'm enjoying the food that's in my mouth. I'm not doing what I used to do where I would like pile it on so I could taste every single piece. um Same thing, it doesn't have to be sweets, it could be like pizza, whatever. Focus on the food that is in your mouth and enjoy the taste and the flavors, and don't worry about the next piece, because that's going to stop. Obviously that's going to have you eating less calories, because one piece of chocolate is less than, or less calories than 10 pieces of chocolate. But you're also going to feel better, because if I'm eating 10 pieces of chocolate, I'm probably going to feel like garbage. If I'm eating one and I focus on what I'm doing, I'm gonna get the satisfaction of that chocolate without having to consume all of those extra pieces, throwing me off my goals and making me feel like garbage.
I have that problem too. I have that problem. Not gonna lie. Like I eat fast, and that comes from from working. Basically, every job I've had in my adult life has had a sort of a very fast-paced lifestyle behind it. I can vividly remember when I was in the car business, like not sitting down to eat my lunch. I would literally stand there and inhale an entire sandwich or a cheeseburger or like three slices of pizza while I'm getting numbers from my sales manager, and that would be my lunch. And you're right, like you feel, not only do you that, not only are you throwing probably overeating because you're eating so fast, but you're also setting your digestion up for to be shit.
Yeah.
Uh, Number two for me. Number two, and this is something that I have been on a tirade lately about because I keep, for some reason, it has popped back up again, and that is not eating after X time at night. Guys, we are sitting here recording this. It is after 7 o'clock. Judging by the time that is on our recorder, it's closing in on 7:30. I have another 30-minute drive to get home when I leave here because I'm still in the gym. I won't eat dinner till at least 8:30, quarter to 9. Now, I also won't go to bed until about 11:30. It is not how late you eat. It is how, first of all, it is what you eat more than anything. But if you really want to take it to the next level and get your digestion in place, because again, we are about health. We've said that before. We're all about health. You want to get your about 2.5 to 3 hours before you go to bed is when you want to eat your last meal. Now, some people will, I like to have a snack before they have bed. Okay, fine. Have a protein shake, have a spoonful of peanut butter. Um, Sometimes if I get a sweet tooth at night, which I don't have the world's biggest sweet tooth, I will eat either like a piece of a protein bar or like the Atkins chocolates. They make actually like single serving chocolates, which aren't, again, they're not as good as your Doves, but they're not terrible. But those things, those are the things. I can't eat after 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock. Yes, if you're going to bed at if you're eating at 8 and going to bed at 8:30, yeah, don't eat your meal at 8, but try to find your meal at 6 is going to be fine. Your body doesn't know what time it is. Your brain does, but the rest of you doesn't know what time it is. There is no magic time when the clock strikes midnight and you start gaining calories or start storing more fat. You are not Cinderella, and the clock will not strike midnight. I that's one that just that irritates me for some reason, and I don't know if it's because I eat so late that it's, but it's just one of those things that just gets me up on my soapbox.
I think it's from I haven't really heard that until like influencing has been a thing. Like, because sometimes a lot of this stuff stems from like somebody's trying to become like the next big thing. So they like throw something out there and it's like clickbaity and people are like, oh my God, like now you can't eat like this is completely random, but like love languages. Everybody knows like most people have heard of love languages. That's not actually a real thing. Those were created by like, oh my God, what the heck was it? I can't even remember what it was. It wasn't created by a therapist. It was created by some random person. Damn it, I forget what it is. I'm gonna put it in the notes because you would think that like a therapist created love languages. Nope, they did not. It was created by something random. But people like will come up with these things to try to get more followers or get more attention, and it ends up in the long run hurting a lot of people because if you're eating too late, you're missing out on all that nutrition. So you're probably not hitting your protein goal. You're probably not hitting your fat goal, and we need fat for our brain health. Um, it also at like a little bit of that, if you eat too late to your bedtime, it is going to affect your digestion a little bit and your quality of sleep. So like I would say at least 2 hours. Um, but it also, if you're skipping meals before you go to bed, you're going to wake up hungry in the morning. So you're probably going to be more likely to binge eat because you're not getting those nutrients throughout the day. Not to like put my husband on blast, but he has noticed. I've been talking to some of my clients and they have also noticed this, so which is why I'm talking about it because it seems like a fairly common thing. Um, if he doesn't hit his nutrition throughout the day, he will sleep eat. So he'll like sleepwalk down to our cabinet and he'll eat. It's usually he'll take a granola bar, dip it in peanut butter because I always see the remnants of the granola bar in the peanut butter jar. And then like he will go to town and I'll wake up and I'll like go be doing whatever and I'll open the trash can and there'll be like wrappers in the trash can. He used to do it with candy, but now for some reason it's just granola bars and peanut butter. And I was talking to a lot of my clients, and either themselves or their kids do that. So if you're not, if that resonates with you, you're most likely not hitting your nutrition throughout the day. So try doing that, and that may help with your sleep eating. Um, my number two is cutting calories from the beginning. So a lot of times we think like, oh, I want to lose weight. So what's the first thing I'm going to do? I'm going to cut my calories. Not always. If you are a chronic dieter, no matter what your fitness goals are, if you are a chronic dieter, if you have been low calorie for a while and you're always focusing on being low calorie, that would honestly be the last thing that I want you to do because, like I talked about a little bit before, when you are low calorie, you're not building your metabolism. So if you've been in like a low calorie, like dieting phase for a while, I would want to take you out of that first thing. I want to speed up your metabolism. We want to push those calories just a little bit, just enough to get you out of your deficit, fuel some muscle building. That way we can burn body fat without doing like manual work. So adding in a little bit of calories from the beginning may help you lose body fat faster than if losing body fat is your goal, than just cutting calories from the beginning. And when you add calories, you are speeding up your metabolism. So that means when you're ready to cut calories, you have to do a lot less work. So if you're coming to me and your maintenance calories are 2,000, I'm bumping you up to like 2,200. Maybe we build a pound or two of muscle in that phase. Now you're probably at like 2,100 maintenance calories. So instead of dropping down to like 1,700 for a cut, you're now at 1,800 calories, which is a little bit more manageable. So you can eat more while you're still losing weight. So I very rarely will cut calories from the beginning.
One of the things I think, and I don't know that, but most people that come to me and say I want to lose weight and cutting calories, as soon as we start with the exercise, for the most part, and if you go into a more spaced out, which because most people do, like we said, skip meals, you don't even have to monkey with the calories right away. Most people will go into a weight loss just by doing those two things alone, adding in some physical activity, and then spreading their calories out over a larger portion of time. Most that will get most people started. Then we'll start saying, okay, we're going to start adding in protein, and we're going to, which will then, like Lars says, add in protein, which will automatically cut out some other stuff. So focusing on calorie cutting from day one is again, it's one of those things that I think we talk about when we talk about the tagline on the show a lot. Sustainable fitness for real life. The more you tell people they can't, the more they want to. And I'm going to give you guys an example, and this is going to be a little bit of extreme and maybe even a little bit of a controversial example. But when you told people that they couldn't go out of their homes at the very beginning of COVID, I knew people who never left their house anyway that were always going, "Oh my God, I can't believe that I'm cooped up in here." You've done been cooped up in here for 3 months. Why now? Why now are you starting to get all cabin fever? So again, as soon as you tell someone they can't, and it's a human guys. It happens to all of us. And actually, so what you just said though, Laura, just segues into my number one. What you were saying about the late night eating and not hitting your nutrition goals throughout the day, and that is overloading your calories at dinner. So some of this, guys, is a cultural thing. Think about when you were a kid. You probably had a bowl of cereal for lunch, for breakfast. You had a sandwich, a juice box, and maybe like a bag of chips for lunch that you took to school. Maybe you had a little snack when you got home. And then your mom turned around and she put meatloaf and mashed potatoes and green beans and put gravy on the mashed potatoes. At least my mom did. Um, and had all of these very calorie dense foods at night. Part of that again is a cultural thing because during the day we're so go that we really don't have time to eat, and I've heard that excuse way too many times that we overload our calories at dinner, which then that leads, and that's part of where this don't eat after such and such time has come from, is because we eat so many calories that our body doesn't have time to digest them properly by the time we go to bed. If you look at other cultures throughout Europe and South America and even in Canada, their biggest meals are their lunches. If you've ever heard the term siesta, it's a real thing down in some Latin American countries. First of all, because it's so blazing hot in the middle of the day, but also they eat such large lunches that they sort of just kind of crash for a few minutes, and then dinner is a much smaller meal. If we but So let's not take that example and have giant lunches. Is not what I'm saying. But if we spread our calories out more, it allows your body to digest faster, thus getting more nutrition spread out over a larger period of time. The more it has to digest and the more it keeps coming in, the more it moves efficiently. Maybe it doesn't burn any more or less calories, but it definitely will make your digestion more efficient. And that, more than anything else, will lead to your health and will lead to you not overeating and not binge eating. When you start, again, I said it in the very beginning with the skipping meals. When you're hungry, when you're starving, you make poor nutrition choices. I do it myself. If I'm starving and there is, I don't know, a Snickers bar near me and I'm starving, I'll eat the Snickers bar, which is full of saturated fats and sugars. Is it the absolute worst thing in the world I could eat? No, but it is definitely far from the best thing. Don't put yourself in a position where you're going to make the bad choices. Eat throughout the day and don't calorie load dinner.
Yeah, even when you do calorie load a dinner, I wanted to talk about this a little bit on the last one too, but I saved it for this. When you're eating too close or too much, right before you go to bed, it messes with your sleep quality. And I think that's something that a lot of people don't necessarily notice. Like if we feel off or something's wrong and we don't just really like feel ourselves, I think very not very often do people sit and think like, I wonder if my sleep quality is good. Because we're so focused on how many hours of sleep that we're getting, and we're not really focused on is that sleep good. And when we're too full before we go to bed, that does mess with our sleep quality. when our sleep quality is not as good, automatically we're going to be more likely to have cravings. And the more cravings we have, the harder it's going to be to give into them. So again, like Dave said, just make that dinner just enough to fill your goals. If you didn't hit your protein goal for the day, I'm not saying you got to sit there and like shove like 10 ounces of protein down your throat to hit your goal, but we want to try to get as close to our goals as we can, without feeling uncomfortable before we go to bed. My last thing, I think this is like, I hear this not necessarily from my clients, but people in my personal life. This is the thing that I get the most questions about. And it is the weekend. So we, super, super common. So if this resonates with you, I promise you're not alone. A lot of times we are on it Monday through, I'll say like lunchtime Thursday. Once the work day, if you have like a 9 to 5, once that 5 p.m. on Friday hits, or whatever time you get off work, we automatically just kind of go into like I don't care mode. Nutrition flies out the window. Maybe we're not getting our workouts in, we're going out to eat, we're getting some drinks, whatever we're doing. The weekend, like if we're counting Friday in there, that's almost half of your week. So we got Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, that's 4 days. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, that's three. You're almost at half the week right there. So you could be hitting your goals, hitting your calorie goals, hitting your macro goals, whatever it is throughout the week, even your workouts. You could be hitting your workouts throughout the week. Friday, Saturday, Sunday come. If you're overshooting your calories or undershooting your calories, if you're completely sedentary, you're not moving at all, it's going to cancel out all that hard work that you did throughout the week. So a lot of times, like I said, in my personal life, people will be like, oh my gosh, Laura, like, do you have any advice on this? I feel like I am eating so good, I'm eating so clean, and I'm not losing any weight, I'm not making any progress. And like these people are usually people that I know. So I would never say this to any of my clients, but usually ends up being people that I know. So I'll be like, do you eat like an asshole on the weekends? And they're like, no, I don't think, no, like I eat pretty good. And I don't say anything. I'm like, okay, yeah, because I feel like that's just a really common thing. Like whenever we get to the weekend, we're kind of like, oh, like let's celebrate the weekend and go out to eat. And then once I kind of give those examples without saying like, I know that you're eating like an asshole on the weekend, because that's just not a thing. You very rarely can you be like, I eat so clean and I get my workouts in, and I'm not making any progress unless you have hormonal issues. That's not really a thing. So I know what the culprit is 99% of the time. And then once I kind of start giving those examples, then they're like, oh well, you know what? Yeah, I actually do. Like I always go out to eat with my spouse or my partner on like Fridays, and then Saturdays we do this, and then Sundays we do that. So I'm not saying that you can't enjoy your weekend, but we do want to be mindful that if we are like going overboard, it's going to undo what we did. So if you're in a deficit, like say your goal is 2,000 calories, whether you're in a deficit or a surplus, and throughout the week you're hitting those 2,000 calories, Friday comes along, now all of a sudden we're at 2,500. You're already over your total amount. So if we're hitting 2,000 calories, your goal for the week is 14,000. So we're already creeping up 500 in. And unless the next day, Saturday, you're like, oh, I got to be mindful of making sure I'm only at 1,500 calories today, which you're not going to do because it's Saturday and you don't want to do that on a Saturday. You're still over your goal for the week. Saturday comes along. Again, you're probably not going to automatically cut 500 calories out of your diet on Saturday. You're probably going to be at 2,500 again. Sunday comes around again. Are you going to cut 1,000 calories out of your day because you ate 500 more calories than you should have on Friday and Saturday? No, because I don't even want you to eat 1,000 calories in a day either. So I want you to be mindful of your entire week instead of just focusing on the day. Same thing goes if you're trying to bulk. I do this like if I'm going out if I'm doing anything and I'm drinking, I don't eat. So I do the opposite thing. So my calories are, I don't know, I get really distracted when I'm drinking. I just want to have fun. So I don't eat. And I don't feel full or I feel full because I'm drinking, but I
Okay.
do the opposite thing. So I am now, and as we know, I like to be strong. So I am usually at a maintenance or a slight little surplus. I'm not very often in a cutting situation. So I'm throwing myself out of my maintenance or my little bit of a surplus, which means the next time I go back to the gym, I'm not going to be as strong because I'm not fueling myself. So just thinking about the whole picture as a week and not taking it as each individual day. I did talk about this a little bit on the last episode too, and it kind of goes with this. If you're tracking, you're not going to track on the days that you are going to go off your plan. Like if you're going out to eat, you're not going to sit there and Google the menu and make sure it fits your macros. And that's okay. I don't expect you to do that. But if we're only doing it one time out of the week, it's okay because that's why we build that muscle. That's why we speed up that metabolism. When it ends up happening Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and we hear the term cheat day or cheat meal, and we take that and we run with it. I don't want you to have a cheat day unless it's a special occasion. um, there are times where you're going to have a cheat day if you're on vacation. Dave talked about this a little bit when we were planning this episode. He said about like a wedding. If you are doing something throughout the day, your priority is not going to be your nutrition, and that's okay if it's a rare thing. But when it's happening every single Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, yeah, you're not going to make any progress because you're not hitting the goals that you set for yourself.
I was a very guilty of that one. Um, prior to prior to the fitness to getting into the fitness business, and also and B, just because even the very beginning of it, it was one of those things when I stopped and thought about it. If you do this math for a second, guys. You take 5 meals a day, which I know not everyone is on that plan, but that's what I do. I do 5 meals a day, roughly. You take 5 meals a day, you multiply that by seven, that's 35 meals in a week. If you go, and I'm not even going to talk Friday, I'm just going to go all day Saturday and Sunday. If you eat, and again, like Laura said, to eat like an asshole for Saturday and Sunday, that's almost a third of your week. That's almost 72. I think the math I did, because I did the math earlier today when I was um, going through some of this stuff in my head. It's like 72%. Imagine this. Imagine you got a 72% on a test or a quiz or a grade. That ain't a good grade. You ain't gonna be happy with yourself. So why are you happy with yourself when you worked hard all week, when you've eaten the right things, when you've gotten up, you've got to the gym, you've made the time for yourself, and then you're gonna spend all day Saturday and Sunday eating pizza, drinking beer, eating cookies and ice cream. And guys, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. But don't come to me and say I'm not making any progress when you're doing these things. If you're at a point where you're either satisfied with your progress or that making new progress isn't on the goal, fine, have at it. I'm not here to shame anybody for what they do on the weekends because Lord knows I like my fun, I like my junk food. I've talked about it more than once. But don't say I'm not making any progress when you're eating, you're eating out all weekend long or eating junk food. It's just, again, going back to the example Laura used, vacation, special occasion, a holiday, Christmas. Christmas is the perfect example I'm gonna use here. There is no reason that unless you have a competition of some sort or other, bodybuilding show, whatever, coming up within the next couple weeks right after the first of the year, that you need to watch your calories on Christmas Day. I don't. I get up. I usually make mimosas. When I was married, I would get up and I would make mimosas. My wife would make she made this French toast baked casserole that was really good. Um, and we'd have that. And I'd make eggs on the griddle. We'd have a big breakfast. We'd go over to my sister's house. We'd have a big dinner. Then we'd go to her parents' house. We'd have another big dinner. We'd have desserts. We'd come home, we'd eat leftovers and have drinks or whatever. Yeah, it was Christmas. You're supposed to do that. You're supposed to enjoy that time with your family. And in my and I know not everybody's family is like this, but in my big Italian family, that's a big thing for me. Priorities, guys. Priorities are the thing, and whether it's the weekend, when it comes to any of this stuff that we've talked about tonight, Making your nutrition a priority. Now, these are little tips that can help you fill in some cracks along the way, but it's at some point you have to make this a priority. Make your nutrition a priority, make your health a priority, and make yourself a priority so you can take care of the things that are important in your life besides you. We all have a goal. We all have a place that we want to get to. Wherever that place is, whether it's bigger, smaller, faster, stronger, leaner, or meaner, we all have a place that we want to get to. And at some point, you have to ask yourself, how important is this to me? How important is this goal to me? Guys, maybe you don't want to be like Coach Laura and Coach Dave and have the ability to sit out here and talk to folks like you guys listening. That's fine. You don't have to be. Maybe you don't want to go so far down the rabbit hole where you make this into your career. That's fine. That's cool. I don't expect you to. But your health has to be a priority. And whatever goal you have, if it's important enough to you to come and seek us out or seek out whoever it is that you're listening to on YouTube or Instagram or TikTok or wherever it is that you're getting your advice from, it's important enough to do the right things to get there. So that is all we have for this evening. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Next week, we are going to go into a topic that is very near and dear to my heart, and that is strength training and fitness. As Laura put it in the notes that we share, at an advanced age, I'm going to say as we get older. Um, but that it's something that's really become in the forefront of my mind as I have creeped into my mid 40s before I even realized it. And I know Laura, who is 30 and has children and family, something that is very important to both of us. So until next week, Laura, tell them what they can do.
You can do hard things.
Till next week, folks.
Thank you for listening to the She Lifts, He Lifts podcast, Sustainable Fitness for Real Life, with Laura Ash and Coach Dave Webster.
As always, we thank you for your support, and if you enjoyed this episode, please share the love by sending it to your friends and family and by leaving us a 5-star rating.
You can follow Laura on Instagram and TikTok at LauraAsh_CPT or Laura Ash Personal Trainer on Facebook. Follow Coach Dave at Rockstar Fitness on Facebook, at DWebster023 on Instagram.
Follow us on Instagram at SheLifts_He Lifts and She Lifts He Lifts podcast on Facebook and YouTube. Until next time, this is She Lifts, He Lifts.